My name is Dr. Janice Phelps. I'm the interim program director at East-West Psychology, which is sponsoring this wonderful panel. And I'm also the director of the Center for Psychedelic Therapies and Research here at the California Institute of Integral Studies. So I'm standing before you in two hats, and I'm really thrilled to be introducing this wonderful panel tonight.
Should you speak on the phone for the benefit of the film?
Is this even working?
Yeah, it works. I think Heidi set it up.
Hello, hello. Can you hear it?
Yeah, I'm sure. The volume's good.
Is this actually a lot better? Should we ask everybody on the panel to be holding this? Do you mind? Okay. Okay, we're going to do this all over again. I don't really need to do a reintroduction for myself at all. So, thanks for coming. My name is Dr. Janice Phelps, faculty member of CIIS. I'd like to introduce our first panel member. Beatrice Labate has a PhD in social anthropology from the State University of Campinas in Brazil. Her main areas of interest are the study of psychoactive substances, drug policy, shamanism, ritual, and religion. She is visiting professor at the Center for Research and Postgraduate Studies in Social Anthropology in Guadalajara, Mexico. And this fall, she will be teaching a new course in the East-West Psychology program here entitled Ayahuasca Science and Spirituality. She is also co-founder of the Interdisciplinary Group for Psychoactive Studies and editor of their website. She is author, co-author, and co-editor of 17 books. Busy woman. One special edition journal and several peer-reviewed articles. And her companion here to my immediate left is Clancy Kovnor, has a doctorate in clinical psychology from JFK University here in the Bay Area. She currently works at a dual diagnosis residential drug treatment center in San Francisco and is a research associate of the Interdisciplinary Group of Psychoactive Studies. She combines an eclectic array of interests and activities as clinical psychologist, artist, and researcher. She has a Master of Fine Arts in Painting from the San Francisco Art Institute, and a Master's in Counseling from San Francisco State University. Apparently loves being in graduate school. She is co-author and author of several articles in several peer-reviewed journals and co-editor with Beatrice Labate of 6 books, among them Ayahuasca Shamanism in the Amazon and Beyond. She is an editor at Chakruna, a venue for publication of high-quality academic short text on plant medicines. And to the left of Bia is Bane, who is the son of a traditional chief of the Huni-Kuin peoples. Huni-Kuin peoples. He is an advocate for the ecological heritage of his people's native lands, both domestically and internationally. Born on the Jordan River in the state of Acre, Brazil, Bane and his brother Fabiano were sent from their villages to the cities of Brazil at a young age by their father and chief to learn new knowledge of the world outside the forest and represent their people in tradition, heritage, and politics. Since then, Bane has completed his university studies, learned to speak Portuguese fluently, and began to represent his people nationally and internationally as both an ambassador and a medicine man. Bane and his people see the mystical and natural duality of plants and how they can access the spiritual world from plants found in their native areas. 15 years ago, he began using various plant medicines with non-indigenous peoples. He brings the knowledge of his ancestors, of his people, of the forest. Welcome.
Thank you.
Chris Dodds, to the left of Bane, is a photojournalist from the Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. He's a friend and travel partner of Bane. Please welcome this group of 4 panelists on this special night.
Thank you, Janice. I want to thank CIIS again for hosting another event that I proposed to them. I want to thank Heidi, who's always great support and make it happen. And thank you all for coming after this huge psychedelic science marathon, testing endurance here. So congratulations for the ones that are still on the game. I am kind of knocked out. Got sick during the conference due to the air conditioner. Experienced altered states of consciousness in the USA with the lack of windows in the whole building. I didn't understand how that works yet very well. But you know, I committed to being here, so I'm here. But I'm not in my best shape. Maybe for the luck of you all, I'll be less enthusiastic maybe. But I'm going to talk about this book. It's always a pleasure for me to talk about, you know, the books that I edit or co-edit. They are really, you know, a vocation I have. I consider, you know, that's my best talent, to edit books. In this event, I thought we should try to be a little bit more creative, and you know, since all the questions that we get all the time is, what do you think of Westerners using ayahuasca, and what about cultural appropriation, and how do you see the expansion? So we thought it would be nice to have an indigenous person for a change saying something. So that's why I invited Leopardo.
Estou falando que, já que todo mundo sempre pergunta o que eles acham dos prêmios do mundo da ayahuasca, que a gente achou bom convidar um índio para falar sobre isso, para variar um pouco, porque nunca tem essa voz.
So it's nice that he's here, and you know, he's going to have to listen me to speak in English, but he will speak in Portuguese, and then Chris will translate to English. So these efforts of cultural translation demand extra work. I am going to give a very general overview of what the book is about, and just want to start by acknowledging and thanking my co-editors Clancy Kavner and Alex Gearing, two very dear colleagues and friends and collaborators and supporters. Alex is in Australia, and we also have the presence of one author of one of the chapters, Ben de Lunen, who is there and has contributed to one of the chapters, and it's an honor to count with him. I'm gonna, as I say, just really give like an appetizer of what is the book. I also want to say that this is a kind of symbolic launch. The book is here, and we'll have you circulate it, but we're not actually selling any books because it's super expensive and hard to get and complicated, so you can buy it online, or in case you really want to read it and you can't afford it, you can write to me, but you know, I'm not officially allowed to share it with you, but maybe we can work something around it. Yeah, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of the book. Just want to start by noting that the cover is like inspired in the kene, in the patterns that are very common to all Pano-speaking groups. So the Shipibo are one, the Kashinawa or Hunikwen are another. So these are the common themes of the universal skin of the founding snake or the boa, and we have the globe around, so it's kind of making the topic is the expansion or globalization. The art is by Clancy Kavner, especially for the book. In many regards, this book is a kind of dialogue and relative to this other book, which is our other previous collection called Ayahuasca Shamanism in the Amazon and Beyond from 2014 by Oxford University Press. So they're kind of cousins. I recommend this one as well. The art is also by Clancy. It's very beautiful. I'm also going to be passing it around. So the World Ayahuasca Diaspora, Reinventions and Controversies. This book is a direct result of the first World Ayahuasca Conference, which was held in Ibiza in 2014. The first World Ayahuasca Conference was promoted by CIIS, and I was a collaborator, consultant to that conference. And it was an amazing event that held around 650 people in Ibiza, and had practitioners and academics, both from social sciences and from biomedicine, activists, enthusiasts, and gathered a big community of advocates. And in that conference, we kind of planted the seed of what today is known as the Ayahuasca Defense Fund. That is a fund geared towards the protection, the legal protection of ayahuasca. And this book kind of made a selection of the part of social sciences that was presented in the conference. As I say, there's much to be said about the book. I don't want to make this a long presentation because I want to hear Bane, and I've just seen that other Brazilian friends arrived that are very dear colleagues that are also involved in this movement. So São Paulo is taking over here today. The bridges, in the family of saints, São Paulo and San Francisco are connected today. São Francisco in São Paulo by this mutual community of colleagues and enthusiasts and lovers of plants. I would also like to maybe give them a word and make this event more open and relaxed, because we are all kind of overwhelmed by psychedelic science. And I just want to put a few ideas out there. I'm going to read the title of the chapters briefly, and it's like an appetizer. You get to taste a little bit, but then you have to have the whole meal afterwards. So I'm just going to throw in like 3 ideas. So let's go. Introduction. The shifting journey of ayahuasca in diaspora, or diaspora. Okay. Then the first article is called, If Tradition Did Not Exist, It Would Have to Be Invented. Retraditionalization and the World Ayahuasca Diaspora. Second, Between Ecstasy and Reason, a symbolic interpretation of UDV trends. Third, The Religion of the Forest, reflections on the international expansion of a Brazilian ayahuasca religion. 4. Culling the Spirits, an exploration of Santo Daime adoption in Canada. 5. A Religious Battle, musical dimensions of Santo Daime diaspora. 6. Good Mother Nature, ayahuasca neo-shamanism as cultural critique in Australia. 7. Ayahuasca, a cultural history of Changa and ayahuasca analogues in Australia. 8. Disentangling the ayahuasca boom, local impacts in western Peruvian Amazonia. 9. The economics of ayahuasca, money, market, and the value of the vine. 10. Global ayahuasca, an entrepreneurial ecosystem. 11. A climate for change, CIIS and the challenge of globalization of ayahuasca. 12. Ayahuasca in the English courts, legal entanglements with the jungle vine. So let's go. Some provocative ideas and thoughts for our brief introduction. Chapter 1. The basic claim is a reflection on the nature of modernity, and the author is calling our attention because of the historical processes involved in modernity. It means modernity implies in a constant search for tradition. It's kind of inherent to modernity to look for tradition. So he's kind of looking on how all ayahuasca groups claim to be traditional somehow. And what he's doing is not saying whether they are traditional or not, but trying to understand this claim and this need to be recognized as traditional. And what does that has to do with the history of modernity? And it's a dense sociological reflection that I'm going to skip for all of you. Chapter 2 is talking about the UDV and the tension between trance, inspiration, mysticism, revelation, bliss, and discipline, order, correction, hierarchy, centralization, authority. So drinking ayahuasca in the context of a very hierarchical and more patriarchal and more centralized, institutionalized, bureaucratized institution, at the same time that joy and beauty and bliss and freedom and encounter with the divine is promoted. How do you solve that tension? Then, the religion of the forest, Brazilian, the expansion of Santo Daime. Some of the main tensions of Santo Daime going abroad. So, we have people from Daime here that practice Daime here in California. What are the challenges of this cultural transposition? What happens when the padrinos, the religious leaders, come visit California? As the Lord say, they don't like it very much because they can't do collective saunas all naked together because the Brazilians really get upset and uptight about it. So it's this clash of like a libertarian counterculture, progressive, eclectic, transnational, gay, ecological culture with a kind of Amazonian culture rooted in kinship relationships, in family relationships, in personal relationships. And this fight of Santo Daime out of Brazil without a real institutionalization, that is the expansion of this royal family that are guided by some and followed by others, but at the same time it's immersed in a kind of small market community, market dynamic, but it's not just about that, it's also about the role of Latin religiosities in the New World, how, before you had colonization and Europeans brought religiosity to the Americas and Christianity, and now we reinvent this Christianity, mix it with indigenous things, with African things, and we export it back to Europe and to the US. And how religions from the South are becoming each time more important in the global economy of religions. So it's also a kind of sociological look on the role of these new religiosities or new religious movements going back to the First World. Then there is one chapter about Canada that is discussing similar things and discussing how local symbols mingle and adapt and transform. Like people in Canada are receiving Native American entities on their works, and how does these tensions and negotiations between local symbols and Daime symbols in Brazil dialogue? This sort of thing. Then we have another one that is specifically about music. So in Daime, the hymns are considered sacred. They are not creations. They are not authorial things. They are considered to be received, like mediunic channeling of spiritual messages. And that is done in the form of music. So the limits between form and content are at stake because the language through which this is transmuted is music. So you're not really entitled to change the music because the music is sacred. But then when you go to another country, do you translate the hymns or not? It's like the Bible. Should we be reading the Bible in Latin or in Aramaic? What does the migration of a religion means in terms of symbols and adaptations? And so we argue there's like two main schools. The ones that want to sing in Portuguese and the ones that want to sing in English. And their lines of reasoning and their negotiations and their translation wars and the prestige of knowing Portuguese and being friends of Brazilians and being the ones who are authorized to make those translations. And at the same time, the lack of an official position on whether translation is allowed or not creates a lot of flexibility. So there's lots of variations, lots of versions, but people recognize each other as kind of belonging to a same general tree or family. What does, in the limit, make them belong or not to a same line? What is the cement? What is the cultural cement that puts everything together in terms of symbol? What does it make it work for people? Why are certain people considered legitimate and others are considered charlatans? Where do you draw the lines and how? Magic of culture. Something is at work. I am an anthropologist. I'm going to say it's a cultural thing. I don't think it's because God decides. I think it's a cultural process and evolution. And that's a little bit what we're analyzing. Australia is another whole thing. It's also part of this expansion of neo-shamanism, and Alex is talking a lot about how in Australia this gets politicized and related to a kind of cultural critique of modernity and society, and how people that join ayahuasca rituals engage in a kind of rhetoric about failures of modern society and about limitations of capitalism or individualism or consumerism. And at the same time, there's another chapter that shows the development of changa, that is an Australian kind of mix that is not ayahuasca. So there's alcihuasca, that is a combination made with local plants in Australia that have the same pharmacological combination of ayahuasca. And some people in Australia claim that this is like a native ayahuasca. I'm sure Mudge will correct me. That there is absolutely no historical evidence that was used as such, but is being reinvented by the New Age movement as kind of the native Australian ayahuasca. So that's another one. Then we have two double chapters that talk about economics and the endless, problem of commodification, of all that. That is the favorite topic of everyone. And I'm just going to throw one idea about this that I think is brilliant. And it is so simple and sweet. It's as simple as this. I took ayahuasca. I had a vision. I loved ayahuasca. I had a whole critique of my own life. I decided to abandon my job and promote ayahuasca retreats and dedicate myself fully to this beautiful new path. By doing that, I created a little business. And I go to the Amazon, and I open a lodge, and I hire a shaman, and I maybe produce a little CD, and I start to sell some textiles. And so this is what the author is called ayahuasca entrepreneurism. It's by being moved by the charisma of ayahuasca, people decide to start ayahuasca lives. And that creates a little ayahuasca business, that generates a little ayahuasca movement, that generates a little regional movement, that generates a little national movement, that generates a little international movement, that generates a whole global movement that moves this wheel around. So the expansion of ayahuasca, it's not just the calling of ayahuasca, is allowed by this little market that emerges, that in fact is small scale. I don't think there's anybody like making millions of dollars and hiding it in the Cayman Islands because they are doing ayahuasca retreats. But there's this little businesses that generate more movement, because then there's advertising and there's the need to sustain that business. And so it's a look, I think a delicate look on how this this expansion happens. It's looking the material basis that allowed all this expansion. And related to this, of course, there is the whole discussion on, you know, how this is impacting indigenous people. So there's another chapter that is talking about all the backlashes and the things that happen in the lodges. But there's a very critical view that the process of ayahuasca expansion can't be just said, you know, the natives existed and then the gringos arrived and now it's perverted. All the chapters tend to show that the history of ayahuasca has been always a history of exchange, of movement of back and forth between city and forest. Coming from the city, going to the forest, coming back to the forest, being born in riverine areas that are not primarily indigenous, imported from those areas back to the city. So the history of expansion of ayahuasca is very related to a movement that is not linear from the isolated and primitive and pure group that never had contact with any outsiders to the cosmopolitan global north. But it has always been this history of exchange and of pan-ethnic alliances. Then there is the chapter of CIIS, and I will like, you know, next after Banet speaks to give the word to Ben because he's here, he can talk about it. And there's also another chapter about legal issues and the case of ayahuasca in the UK, which is that the case of Peter Assis was a guy that was caught with a glass. You know when you drink the ayahuasca and there's that little thing that is left on the bottom? A borra, we say in Portuguese. It's like a little thick thing. That's what they got, basically, from this guy. And they analyzed that, and it had DMT. And that's where all the trouble went. And the problem was that this guy was a rather problematic practitioner that, you know, was advertising online, and he has a video. He had a website where he sold from boob enlarging products to anti-vampire sprays to other shamanic benefits. So he was not the best representative to be caught. And that created a lot of division in the ayahuasca community because a lot of people didn't, said, forget this guy, he's burning in jail. But the problem is not, the guy is not being challenged for being a bad shaman. He's being challenged for that little tiny thing of DMT. And that concerns all of us. So I think that's, another paradox of the whole legalization thing, because what is at stake is a movement, what is at stake is the use. It's not exactly a merit problem. This use is not good, but the other use is good. No, it's like you're saying, well, I took my car to the mechanic. The mechanic did a very bad job. I don't like that mechanic. It's very different than saying, if I have a problem with my car, I'll never take it to a mechanic. Because there's good mechanics and bad mechanics. But when it comes to an illegal drug, how do you make the difference between the good mechanic and the bad mechanic? I mention mechanics because I think it's a rather obscure profession that I don't have any knowledge of how it works. It's a random example. So this is our book. It came out recently. It's 2016, but officially 2017. It does feel a little bit strange to be talking about it when we just did the wonderful second World Ayahuasca Conference, but that's the timing of books. And with this, I conclude, and I thank you for your attention.
meu grande cumprimento a Bia Labate e Beatriz Labate. E também queria cumprimentar o meu grande amigo Léo Artesi, que está aqui presente com seu equipe. Cumprimento meus amigos que estão aqui na frente. E parabenizar a Bia pelo que ela já produziu e a sua dedicação à vida dela para uma coisa que contribui no mundo acadêmico, né? Eu acho que, em primeiro lugar, é reconhecer o trabalho que ela tem feito dedicado. Eu acho que desde que eu conheci ela não para de publicar, escrever e citar no computador, passar o resto do seu dia e trocando muita coisa. Então, eu queria te parabenizar por isso. Obrigado por ter a oportunidade de sentar com você. Sou grato por convite.
He would like to thank and congratulate Bia Labate, and he'd like to recognize the presence of his friend Leo Ortez and his team here. He wanted to thank me for being here as well, and all of you. And he wanted to recognize Bia's contribution to this field and her dedication throughout her life for this cause that is doing a lot in this world, that it's a new field, and her discipline for, to constantly be at it and to go to the computer and to be writing and to be reading and to be studying. I'm sure we can all realize it's not an easy thing. So I'd like to recognize her and thank all of you for being here.
Em primeiro lugar, eu quero agradecer a todos os indígenas que faz parte, que vivem no Brasil. Muita gente que vem se apresenta com si mesmo, mas eu represento um espírito maior, um espírito geral dos indígenas que trabalham com medicina.
He'd also like to thank all the indigenous people in Brazil and everyone that is represented by the indigenous or identifies as indigenous, which he most definitely does. And he is here as a member of not only the Brazilian indigenous community, but the indigenous community, whether you want to call that global or...
Eu tenho participado de algumas coisas de invento que eu sempre deixo uma mensagem que não tem uma participação indígena, no sentido que a gente deve trabalhar junto nisso. Uma coisa que um ajuda a outra. Os indígenas que têm essa tradição, essa cultura, mas não só do Brasil, mas parte do mundo, que tem cultura muito de geração em geração. A ayahuasca é um espírito muito antigo.
He'd like to acknowledge that he has been a part of a few different conferences and events in which the indigenous representation is light, sometimes maybe only him, and that there is an acknowledgement to be made of the indigenous communities, not just in the Amazon, but around the world.
Mas de estar aqui, eu cambiei do Acre para São Paulo para São Francisco, encontro uma comunidade que, então é uma grande momento de poder expressar, porque nas academias que eu tenho participado, não só a ayahuasca, mas enquanto que não é citado os indígenas das parte de reconhecimento que eu falo, de reconhecer que os indígenas sempre estão presentes, desde nossa criação. Não queremos ser melhor ou ser pior, mas que queremos né, de alguma forma, que eu vejo hoje na globalização do xamanismo, que hoje a grande expansão da razão de que esse discurso traz aqui para a gente.
Quer me ajudar com esse?
Vai em frente. Você não entendeu o que
Você pode falar isso de novo? Meio para.
Nos lugares que eu frequentei, não só na academia da ayahuasca, mas muitas das políticas não são citadas. Agora, né, com essa expansão da globalização, que eu vejo que tem algum movimento.
So for the places that he has frequented, and not just in the academia, the world of ayahuasca, that there's now a growing, he definitely sees that there's a growing globalization that is spreading, and he had originally said, he had changed from Jordão, Acre, Brazil, to São Paulo, and now to San Francisco, and there's a group of people here that are all brought together by this.
He also said that the indigenous people are not better or worse than other people. They just exist and existed since a long time.
Mesmo que isso não seja escrito, mas pela existência, eu vejo essa geração desde 80, né? Foi 83 que eu nasci, vivi um tempo completamente diferente, onde não tinha nem, eu acho que imaginava que essa expansão, né, global de interesse de não indígena crescer e expandir pelo mundo, né? Na época já tinha comunidades tradicionais do Santo Daime, né, de União de Vegetal, o xamanismo já existia também, mas uma coisa que os indígenas, né, de saída do seu lugar e para outros lugares, em função de trazer sua tradição, sua cultura para partilhar para o mundo.
So even though their history is not fully written, it exists. And one thing he can say, he was born in 83, and in that generation, in the 80s onward, the spread is something that he would have never imagined, in his lifetime to see this. And
Eu nasci em 80, sou da geração de 80, e eu vejo que é crescimento.
Yeah, so he's noticed the growth, in his lifetime. It's been very marked.
Mas eu acho que no mundo acadêmico eu tive o privilégio de sair da minha comunidade e ir para a cidade. Me formei em antropologia em São Paulo. Eu acho que também isso me trouxe bastante, porque é uma visão falando dos indígenas por o indígena, né? Então essa participação é muito importante também, falar na academia, a gente falando por nós mesmos, né? E nesse ponto, né, que eu digo, porque onde estão, né, a escritura, o que o indígena pensa, né? Perguntar para um indígena o que ele pensa sobre o mundo do xamanismo.
So he recognized that he's had a great privilege to be able to live in the city and to study in a way that he would have never had the opportunity. And that his vision is that hopefully someday he can be speaking about indigenous culture to an indigenous audience as well. And that there should be a place in academia where there is this dialogue happening, not just one-sided, but indigenous for indigenous. And also be able to have this talk, what does it mean for an indigenous person to see this globalization and this growth?
Ao mesmo tempo, eu fico contente de estar na mesa sentado com a Bia, porque a Bia é uma grande amiga, eu conheço ela desde que eu conheço, então ela é uma acadêmica, uma antropóloga super legal, mas eu falo nesse espírito geral global, né, que queremos ter uma participação do movimento indígena, aqueles que estão, porque eu reconheço também que muitos dos representantes indígenas que saiam por aí, né, mas que a gente tem que conhecer nosso raiz da história, né, da criação.
So it makes him very happy. All that being said, it makes him very happy to be seated here with Bia Labate, a great friend and anthropologist. Yeah, super legal, very cool. And that he wants to speak on, or that to recognize the role not just here, but in the greater scheme of things, where for all the other pajés that are traveling and doing this work, where their place is and what their reason, is with all of this work.
Mas o que eu penso sobre tudo isso, eu acho que uma grande contribuição que faz assim todo esse espírito da cura para o mundo, as pessoas estão muito interessadas, eles vão com tudo, né? Que vão buscar, vão na floresta, os indígenas vêm para cá, alguns não indígenas vão para a aldeia, e assim essa expansão, né? Eu acho que é uma coisa muito boa para o mundo, as pessoas se sentem bem com isso.
So this is something that me and him talked about today before we got here, and what he thinks about this movement. And he thinks it's great that there is non-indigenous people getting to experience this cure and the spirituality brought about by ayahuasca, and that there are some non-indigenous taking the step to go all the way to the jungle and to visit tribes, to visit villages. That is, he thinks it's amazing, us being able to get a cure, or to find some peace, mysticism, and for us to be able to go and learn and to travel and see them in their home. That side of it is great. We were talking about it, and it's an amazing thing, to have this cross-cultural kind of dialogue and bringing things to each other that otherwise, without this, crazy, funky, bitter vine brew from the Amazon, would not be happening. So.
Momento importante da história também que eu vejo que há muitas alianças entre o Daime, né, lideranças do Daime, dos dirigentes do Daime, né. Por exemplo, os Unicuim tem uma grande aliança com o Daime, né. Muitos dos Unicuim já se fardaram no Santo Daime, inclusive o meu pai. E então, né, essa nova geração vai caminhando, né? Não queremos assim, mas quem tem interesse vai lá. Mas o mais importante para nós é que a gente é amigo, né? É o Chai, né? A palavra Unicuim, somos amigos, somos irmãos, né? Do mesmo lugar, mas que, enfim, eu acredito nessa força que eu acredito que possa crescer, mas que as pessoas que estão aí fazendo trabalho reconheçam também que tem alguns, né, acham que estão ajudando, mas muitas coisas que vão para a comunidade, vão para a floresta, em função de uma coisa. Então, isso também é um cuidado, né, que devemos tomar, porque muitos dos nossos jovens, né, inclusive uma fala do meu amigo Tuan, que é o...
Peraí, deixa
So he wants to talk in relation to the daime. He views them as allies, as friends. A lot of the Huni Queen have sat in daime ceremonies, his father included. And in this new generation, if you will, we will go caminhando, we will go journeying together. And I know in the book there's talk of traditionalism or. Well, so the daime are friends, and that.
There are chives.
Yeah, they're chais. Chai is a Huni Queen word meaning friend of the heart. The daime are chai, and.
A palavra chai não é muito difícil, é simples. É o chai, mas na verdade não é o chai, é chai, né? O jeito que a gente fala. A vez muda bastante, né? Que hoje é o chai, já o bané, que é o meu nome, que chama bane. As coisas, com o tempo, vão pegando a própria cultura, né? Vamos dizer, cultura do... mas o chai é metade de mim, né? O meu cunhado é meu chai. Então é metade de mim, metade. Então é nesse sentido. Mas hoje o chai pegou no mundo é o amigo, né? Você vai lá na aldeia Caxinau, e aí chai, todo mundo lá é amigo, mas enfim é essa palavra.
So he's teaching the word chai. Let's learn this word, and let's learn the way they say it before.
Fala como que era a pronúncia de antes do chai. Só fala.
Chai.
Chai.
Então,
Chai is the half of me. É o outro que é minha metade. It's the other that is the half of me.
o outro que é a minha metade. Explica melhor.
Metade de mim, metade de você.
It's half of me and half of you.
Que seria primo, cara.
It's like a cousin.
Explica o negócio do cunhado, de tudo isso.
Because it's been understood as a friend, but it has a very strong genealogical root, and that is the essence of Queen society.
Bom, a gente pode fazer um discurso só na palavra do chai, mas é muito longo.
Seems too complex to explain.
We can have a conversation just about chai.
Deixar para o outro.
For another time.
Que muitos dos nossos... eu sou um dos jovens que saí da comunidade, eu fui não só buscar o caminho da espiritualidade, mas fui buscar para estudar. O meu grande sonho é tornar a liderança do meu povo, que também não é meu sonho, é o sonho do meu pai.
So he was one of the ones chosen to leave the city and to learn not just to study, but to learn how to come back. And his dream is to come back and be a leader of his people. Not just his dream, but his father's dream as well.
E João falou que muitas das vezes que os jovens saem da comunidade e eles não voltam. Estava criticando dos jovens saírem e muitas essa coisa do movimento do xamanismo. E então, como é que eu posso explicar isso? Mas, enfim, algumas coisas facilitam para o nosso voltar, dar valor para o nosso cultura, né? Cultura Unicuí, cultura da ayahuasca, preservar pela ayahuasca, né? E não banalizar a ayahuasca. Isso é um ponto muito importante, que eu, ao longo do meu trabalho, eu acho que uma coisa que eu deixo aqui, né, respeito por toda a cultura, né? Ayahuasqueira, tanto o Shipibo, ou da Colômbia, de outros, Amazônia, Santo Daime, Universal, e eu acho que isso é muito importante, que todo mundo está nesse movimento junto.
So he was just talking about having respect for all cultures, whether they're Queen from Colombia, Daime, Shipibo, the respect for all cultures. But he first started saying about how era criticado os chás que saíram da floresta e não voltavam.
Não volta e volta com outra mentalidade. Essa que era essa crítica.
So there was a criticism of, you know, when you used to leave the aldea, leave the village, and go to the city, that maybe you wouldn't come back, or that if you come back, you would come back changed. So that is something, you know, involved with leaving the city, leaving the village.
Mas esse momento do sonho, do meu sonho, tá chegando agora. A idade chega. Né? Eu acho que o bem que sempre fala, o bem que a Xaninka sempre fala, minha missão, mas é meu papel de poder trabalhar com a cura, mas não só com a cura, poder organizar meu povo, minha comunidade, esse é meu papel de trazer, né, como espírito indígena Runicuim, no estado do Acre, que é onde eu nasci, minha terra natal, e de poder também expressar o meu olhar sobre tudo isso.
So the moment of his dream is near. The time is arriving. Benki Piaku, leader of the Ashaninka, said his mission was always to work with his people, and he's taking after that mission. E
Mas fico feliz que tem amigos brasileiros que estão aqui. Então. Mas, enfim, uma coisa que antes de partir meu avô falou, chama tu, que conhecimento, né, que a gente repassa na cultura indígena, ou seja, na cultura Runicuim, é geração por geração. Esse nosso grande arquivo da memória, da lembrança dos nossos antepassados. Né? Essa é uma grande escritura que não existe. Né? O nosso discurso, né, é buscar, resgatar como é que o nosso avô fazia direta antigamente, né? Para poder entrar na dieta, ele entrava com toda a medicina, né? Unir a pé, se isolar na mata, né? Que hoje, né, tem um grande privilégio do povo de Awanauá abrir para o mundo um conhecimento que é do povo. É um grande também, porque hoje os Runicuim abrem essa possibilidade, como é que o dieta antigamente. Mas e aí? Algumas coisas são para o nosso povo, né? Algumas coisas a gente pode compartilhar, mas algumas coisas que é muito sagrado, que essa é a minha grande preocupação hoje nessa expansão. Ao mesmo tempo, eu acho que tem que expandir mesmo, né? Quem sou eu para ficar com isso preso na minha mente? Mas que a Amazônia é cheio de mistério.
So his grandfather, before he passed, he was explaining to him how their knowledge, their body of knowledge, their wisdom, comes from the generations. It is passed on in this spirit, and so that when they're to come to make a decision, they can think back on how would my grandfather have made this decision, and that when he went in, he did diets of cure with huni, hapé, another plant, that there was a familiarity of the knowledge. And some of these things are very sacred to them. It's like an archive. And they're very sacred, and that is the biggest concern in moving forward in this expansion is the loss of sacredness. But he still thinks that we need to go forward with the expansion. But if there was to be a number one concern, that would be it.
He said that the Amazon is full of mysteries, and some things are just for the indigenous people. But on the other side, he doesn't feel he can hold it only to him.
Bom, eu acho que eu queria falar é isso, mas tem pergunta. Só queria falar que essa nova geração, não no tempo do meu avô, não no tempo do meu pai, na minha geração e outra geração depois de mim, traz outras mudanças, traz uma mudança muito grande no cantos, nos instrumentos. E quais são instrumentos, da modernidade, da modernização, modernizar a cultura, ou trazer outras coisas para dentro da cultura. A origem do renascimento dos cantos, ou do trabalho de cura, ou de ritual, ou de cerimônia, muda o sentido. Quais são os sentidos? Todos são válidos. E eu vejo hoje também que muitas vezes, onde está caminhando, por várias partes do mundo, condutores, dos xamãs, dos curandeiros, de outros, mas eu acho que é isso, que fica para refletir, fica também aí eu trabalho o futuro, mas deixa aqui agora para Bia.
So one thing he can say about changes in his generation, that were not his grandfather's generation, not his father's generation, but his and the ones still to come, would be changes in the songs, and say in the instruments even, and in the technology, and that there will always be changes, that won't stop, and that we are journeying in a way that estava caminhando com mudança, that we're journeying with change from this generation, onwards, and that is not going to, isso não vai parar, it's not going to stop. Thank you.
I would like to invite my dear friend and colleague Ben de Luna to come here and talk very briefly about his chapter in the book and whatever else he feels like pertinent. It's a co-authorship between other two dear friends, Oscar Pares and Constanza Sanchez.
Thank you very much. I wasn't expecting this before, so I didn't really have something prepared for this moment. But yeah, I guess, the chapter is about the globalization, the climate for change, CIIS and the challenges of the globalization of ayahuasca. That's the title. And CIIS is the organization that I represent. And our mission, really one of our key pillars, is engaging with some of the fundamental issues that arise from the globalization of ayahuasca and some other plants like iboga. A major one of those is really legal prosecution, and which is something that came to our organization quite organically in the beginning of 2010 when a case in Chile occurred. People were arrested, and so in the chapter we kind of explain our experience in legal defense. And some people might ask, what's different when you defend cases around ayahuasca than, for example, somebody would be busted with LSD, but it's a very different world. And one thing to keep in mind or to know is that ayahuasca and other traditional plants, they don't fall under the 1971 Convention of the UN, so they're not under international control, and that governments on the national level can have specific bans that outlaw them. And of course, that's something very confusing to a lot of judges or policymakers, because when DMT is illegal and then a plant that contains DMT is not illegal, that's something very difficult to kind of see. So one thing we do in the countries where there's no specific ban is really try to explain why that why the conventions were not made to outlaw these traditional practices and other practices that involve the use of these plants. There's a big reductionism that we see in court, where prosecutors literally extract one molecule, DMT, out of this very rich cultural practice and everything that comes with it. So we kind of try to really emphasize the big tension between this whole cultural phenomenon and cultures, practices that stem from cultures that are way older than the drug control system is. No? So that's something we've been working a lot around and what we kind of explain in the chapter. And thinking a bit of ways forward, no? And how can we turn challenges of legal prosecution into opportunities towards legality or towards a bit more sensible policy. So some of the successes that might occur in that work is not just winning a case, but also things like building community around it, networks of solidarity. For example, also basically educating some influential people in political spheres or scientists. There was a recent case we worked with in Israel where the psychiatrist of the drug czar department really got, he knew about this from the past, and he started to collaborate and wrote a report for the case. So I think all of that is success, and I think we have to work in really, the moments where there's this big clash between the drug control system and these practices and plans, that we, do our efforts to really educate the people on the other side and hope that they kind of understand much better what they have at hand and take decisions that are not prohibition or that are not repression. That's it what I want to add for now.
Thank you, Ben. And Ben has excused us that he might need to leave before, so you are excused. I would, before we pass on to the public, I would like to ask my co-editor if she wants to speak a few words. So just want to make a disclaimer that Clancy and I have been working together. We're making an anniversary of our collaboration. We met in Psychedelic Science 2010. So since then we have published 6 books and we have 1 in print. So it's 7 books. I'd say it's pretty prolific collaboration. It's kind of 1 book a year. And part of the success of this collaboration is that I love to talk and she hates to talk. So she lets me do all the talking. But she is very knowledgeable and I have very high regards. She never wants to talk much because she's kind of more introvert. But I will ask you, Clancy, if you want to share some words with us. And I'll just ask you perhaps a very concrete and easy question, and you could express yourself freely. Why do you think that the Santo Daime hymns should be sung in Portuguese and not in English? I think it's pretty self-evident.
I think they're received in the language of Portuguese, and Portuguese is a prettier language to sing in. And the people who want to twist it up and put it in English are crazy.
Okay. A few words. Okay, I would like to ask the Daimistas volunteers in the atmosphere to sing a song for us in Portuguese or English, because this is about this cultural encounter. And I invite you to share here with us a song. Would you? The three of you? And whoever wants to join in? Well, they'll line up, I'm sure. Yeah? You guys decide.
Okay.
Sobre da lua, sobre do sol, sobre da lua, do brilho as estrelas, porque todas me acompanham. Do brilho as estrelas, porque todas me acompanham. Sobre do sol, sobre da lua, sobre do sol. Sobre da lua, do brilho as estrelas, porque todas me acompanham. Do brilho as estrelas, porque todas me acompanham. Sou brilho do mar, eu vivo no vento. Sou brilho do mar, eu vivo no vento. Eu brilho na floresta porque ela me pertence. Eu brilho na floresta porque ela me pertence. Sou brilho do mar, eu vivo no vento. Eu sou brilho do mar, eu vivo no vento. Eu brilho na floresta porque ela me pertence. Eu brilho na floresta porque ela me pertence. I am the shining sun, I am the shining moon, I am the shining sun, I am the shining moon. I give shine to the stars because they all accompany me. I give shine to the stars because they all accompany me. I am the shining sun, I am the shining moon, I am the shining sun, I am the shining moon. I give shine to the stars because they all accompany me. I give shine to the stars because they all accompany me. I am the shining sea, I live in the wind. I am the shining sea, I live in the wind. I shine in the forest because she belongs to me. I shine in the forest because she belongs to me. I am the shining sea, I live in the wind. I am the shining sea, I live in the wind. I shine in the forest because she belongs to me. I shine in the forest because she belongs to me.
So I want to say, as an anthropologist that has been studying ayahuasca for 20 years, on the note of cultural appropriation, that I think it's legitimate that three non-Brazilian people are interested in the Santo Daime tradition and are learning to sing and are drinking daime and are benefiting from this medicine for the Amazon. And I do not think it is the case that we call this cultural appropriation and stealing the culture, but it's about a cultural exchange, and it's about a cultural communication, and it's about cultural transformation. And I think that this is that should be respected, and it's legitimate. And I am not a purist, and I'm not an orthodox, and I recognize that the spread of ayahuasca beyond the borders of the Amazon is a legitimate cultural practice that needs to be addressed and respected and understood. This doesn't mean that there are no challenges, and this doesn't mean that maybe there are not inequalities in this exchange and problems to be solved and addressed. But I think that the song speaks from themselves. People are touched, people are involved, people are learning, are getting initiated, are getting trained, and I am happy to be part of this process, and happy to be facilitating dialogues where we could try to make reflections on ways to mitigate occasional challenges from globalization. And this event is put together in this light as well for us to bring up those issues.
Você quer cantar alguma coisa ou falar alguma coisa na plateia?
Acho que eu posso falar, cantar é tudo bom. Ela já cantou, já essa próxima.
Podemos abrir então para a
Mas eu
plateia?
falar em questionar.
Aí,
Shani Pubakiro Bakuria Wabanu Na Shaba Pupakiri Shaba Bonakiri Shinabuna Shina Shabakiri No Kunabo Onikui No Kunabo Kashinawa Na No Kumbo Yakiri Hariri No Kun No Kunkaya Tibu No Kumboya No Kushunibu No Kunabo Na No Kunayakiri No Kuhanchakiri No Kumboyakiri Honi Pani Shipa Baka Honi Shama Honi Shana Honi Yoshibu Ramini Wakaro Yoshibu Dovo Sin Yoshibu Shina Pupa Kushipa Pupa Kushpashina Bari Shabayana Osha Shabayano.
I would like to know if Cris or Leo Ortez, you want to share some words? They don't have to?
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to open the mic for the public. Yeah?
Thank you for sharing such an interesting background to ayahuasca. I sort of have a question with ecology and spirituality. Do you think all people involved in the ayahuasca movement are environmentalists?
Say again?
Do you think all ayahuasca advocates are environmentalists?
No.
I mean, would you? Okay, so maybe I'll just say a bit more.
Okay.
It seems to me like, the plant is always saying that something very urgent is going on with the planet and that we need to heal and we need to be a lot more ecologically minded. I mean, is this my own subjective filter, or is this somewhat resonant?
It's resonant. I think a lot of people are getting that message. And it's not just ayahuasca saying, it's all the global environmental movement saying, and definitely I think it touches a lot of us in this kind of sensibility. But I don't think it's like you drink ayahuasca and you become aware. I know some colleagues claim that. Ayahuasca is coming out of the forest to make us all aware and we're going to save the planet. I am more skeptical and more like cold, but I definitely think a lot of people got touched and inspired in this regard, and it has opened a lot of people's attentions to environmental issues.
Question for Yorbana, President Chai. What would you suggest are the most important things for keeping an ayahuasca ceremony sacred in a foreign context? Like the prayers, what is the most important thing?
Qual seria a coisa mais importante para manter a cerimônia da ayahuasca sagrada no contexto fora da floresta, fora da Amazônia?
Eu tenho alguma pergunta para ele também, porque fora da aldeia não indígena, alguns indígenas viajam para fazer trabalho fora. Eu acho que a maneira, não existe certo ou errado, mas eu acho que como a planta é uma professora, a sua dedicação a respeito à medicina, seguindo como falar, o espírito da ayahuasca, né, que chama fora da comunidade, coração, do espírito do Abusin, né? Porque tem muito hoje de Awanawá Ronicuim, mas eu como Ronicuim falando para qual seria melhor o uso, a forma certa de usar fora da aldeia ou da comunidade, acho que com respeito.
He said that there's not exactly any right or wrong way to go about, who's he to say there's a right way or a wrong way to do any ceremony. But that the main thing, the last word that he was searching for was respect, from it to come, and for it to come from the heart. He's Yobson, né?
Do Abusin é o próprio principal. O próprio espírito.
So for him, there's the Yobson, which is like the spirit of the vine. To be true to that, to have respect for that.
The plant is a teacher.
Mas do Abusin é o espírito do ayahuasca no Ronicuim, né? Vamos imaginar que há muita cultura no mundo do ayahuasca. Então eu falo como Ronicuim e eu também explico como Ronicuim, né? Vamos imaginar que o Shipibo tem a mesma linhagem, mas em outras tradições, como a Xeninca, eles acreditam em outra coisa. Então a forma, né, que a gente venha, né, também como indígena usar fora da nossa comunidade, eu sou uma pessoa indígena que eu faço trabalho fora da comunidade, né, fora da aldeia, né, e qual eu acho aqui é a conexão, né, conexão com as pessoas. Eu acho que essa forma que eu falo correta, né, que, né, não abusando, né, do poder, porque hoje vejo que muitas pessoas se acham no caminho iluminado, né? E esse caminho da iluminação leva a muita coisa, né? E eu acho que eu sempre fui uma pessoa muito simples, né? A simplicidade que vem, né? Eu acho que e muita gente vem com poder de dizer que é o pajé, é o conhecedor disso, daquilo, né? Mas a simplicidade tá na alma. Vejo muito meus amigos Ronicuim, vejo muitos meus amigos Yawanawá, vejo também muitos meus amigos Axeninca, né? Alguns, né, dos Axeninca, eles preservam o espírito da tradição, da cultura dos Incas, né, que eles são descendentes de Inca, eles são considerados e vistos como descendentes de Inca, né. O Ronicuim há um tempo já foi fechado, né. Hoje passo 10 anos, né. Eu conheci a Bia e o Léo na conferência, no evento que eles estavam fazendo sobre xamanismo, né, e até lembro do meu amigo que se intrometeu, falou alguma coisa depois, mas, né, o que faz a conexão com esse espírito de lideranças, né, que, né, hoje sou amigo até agora das pessoas, né, que vão em frente, que tem uma história, né, da caminhada nesse mundo da comunidade, né, da comunidade do xamanismo. Eu acho que, né, a escola do xamanismo abre bastante isso, né.
So at the beginning he was speaking about, his Ronicuim and his view of Dobson, of their story. That is one version of one story that exists among many cultures and variations of the story. The Ronicuim and Shipibo are of a similar lineage and descendants, yet they do have variations in their telling of, their culture, their stories, what names there might be involved. The Ashaninka have their own. And, he sees many friends from Yawanawa, from Ashaninka, Ronicuim, and...
Que eles são descendentes dos Incas?
Darshanika, they're descendants of the Incas, and they guard their tradition with a lot of pride. And there's variation from how they, from one culture to the next. And that was the first half.
Things get lost in translation frequently. Let's make the next question.
I can add a little
Oh,
something.
yeah. If the translator is paying attention.
Well, so one thing, Bea was nice enough to send me her book, and I was looking over it, and there are talks of, say, in the Daime Church, whether singing in Portuguese or singing in English. There's people feel very strongly about that. The proprietary, or stealing from one culture to the next. And I think at the question that was asked, it's kind of what it's getting down to, what is sacred is like kind of in the view of the beholder in this topic of religion.
Translation, please.
No, I'm saying, can I add something?
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
Sure.
This is just mine.
Just to make it clear that you're saying.
This is
Okay.
me, my
Yeah,
Chris
okay.
Dodd's opinion. The discussion of religion, religion is it's your relationship with God. That is, at the very core of it. Organized religions, group religions, then you start getting into different things, and then, you look at any major religion, and then look how many branches there are of it, and that they'll even go against themselves. You look at, do is take a look at our country, and you see Christians calling themselves more Christians than others. And in ayahuasca, that's bound to follow, whether it's what language should we sing in, even the fusing of Christianity with an indigenous religion, that seems to have been okay, it's still helping people. And, on Ben's question on what is the way to not lose the sacredness, I'm not indigenous, I can't speak from that thing. But ultimately, are we trying to help people? Is there trying to be a cure? I think that is the important thing to maintain in mind, whether, you're looking at, is this still the pure way? Is this still with the tradition, or is this a new tradition? I think if, the good is the main message, then you're onto something, and going down that road is agreeable. But your book made me think about these things.
Questions? Maybe I would like to hear our host, Janice. Do you have any comments, questions, anything?
I have one for you. What do you think your next book will be on, since you're moving in many, many directions? What would be a dream book for you to do next?
I am working on like 5 books.
Which one are you passionate about now? I'd love to hear.
Well, we are doing the World Ayahuasca Diaspora 2, actually. We're making a continuation of this book, and it's coming out with Routledge. And I just closed a contract with Springer to make a book on cultural perspectives on psychedelic science. So that's what I'm passionate about at the moment. Looking on moving forward to contributing from the Bay Area to other places, and making this dialogue north and south, continuing on that line. And I think the whole, flourishing of the field of psychedelic science could be polonized by anthropology and indigenous voices and ritual, and I feel a strong call to contribute in this direction on the lines of what we did in psychedelic science with plant medicine track.
It's probably too soon to get a post-talk to you, but how do you think that went?
I think it was fabulous. It was so exciting that I got sick, because it was too much emotion for me. And I think it was just fantastic. People are hungry. They need it. They're asking for it. It's like it's burning inside people. It's a total momentum. And I think also the challenge of involving social sciences is that you get a lot of controversies. I don't know if I'm being naive. I was trying to ask Jessica that. If you get these huge fights in the field of biomedicine, I hate your table. Your graphics are horrible. That's really bad. I don't know how you guys fight. There's fighting, I'm sure there's fighting. But in anthropology and social sciences, it's so ideological, it's very heavy. We had a lot of tension in the plant medicine track, about questions like who has the right to use peyote, who doesn't, and, cultural issues and legitimacy, authenticity. Once you start to introduce those problematizations, you open a very complex door. But I think it's good. And we like to in social science, it's welcome. Like Tessian and I were playing with each other in a panel yesterday, saying we disagree and you're wrong, no, you are wrong, and that's part of the academic, game when well played, because it's about ideas, and ideas matter, not prestige or money or status, or we are fighting for ideas. I care for ideas. They mean a lot to me. And so I think that this is what we have to bring to this field, this critical thinking, and stop naturalizing categories such as PTSD and healing or psychedelics or plants, and thinking critically about our history and how these notions came about, and advancing clinical trials, double-blind, randomized, control, placebo, but also being critical and reflexive about those things. Like, that's not the ultimate standards of truth and reality. And we need to be discussing that. So we need to be advancing the research, but we also need to be critical about the format that this research takes.
Do you think some of what you've just talked about is a mirror image of what's happening in globalization and commodification on the planet, and that something about this community of psychedelic thinkers allows us to talk about globalization in a fresh way, in a truthful, genuine way?
Can you elaborate better?
I'm just thinking of all the various issues you just talked about. That's so multifaceted. I don't hear things like that discussed in psychology with that many layers. Maybe it happens in anthropology, but at least not in psychology so much in the United States.
Yeah, I think, social sciences has this kind of weird, privilege, we don't have to heal anybody. It's not our problem. We don't have that sort of responsibility. And we don't have licenses to lose, I think you guys are too worried in trying to help people, and maybe there's not enough time to be just tripping out on ideas. And you have a lot of responsibilities having to take care of patients, and somebody flipped, or we're talking what's going on, what is the meaning. So it's a kind of distance approach that I think in a way it's privileged, because we're making reflections and we don't feel we have to answer the questions we raise, and we don't feel bad about answering very complicated questions that have no answer. No, we don't get irritated if there is no immediate solution. It's a kind of another plane. I don't know, Tessin, if maybe you want to add something to that? He's very knowledgeable in all of this, and he could very definitely be sitting here. Why don't you come up here, actually, and say something on the mic? Come on. We're testing the endurance of psychedelic science researchers. Why don't you give a little contribution to the whole debate?
I think beer made me ill. So I'm also, not at my best. But, well, I mean, just maybe something on psychology. I think critical psychology engages these things quite well, which is a sort of subfield of community psychology. But psychology can be so experimental, right? I mean, it's some of its key histories are very experimental, and so it doesn't get into these kinds of issues. But I like how you embrace hybridity and sort of messiness, because I think it's not even that, like, you know, it's doing the psychedelic science stuff and then it's also reflecting on it, but it cuts across those two things, different people's projects, and that's really nice when there can be a kind of reflection on what's going on that can actually then produce recommendations for clinical trials or something like that, you know, kind of really kind of crossing the two. So, yeah, I'll let you know. Okay.
What about the other stuff that has been discussed? Any other comments?
What about this stuff?
The discussions here of the panel were...
No, I mean, I have this book, Ayahuasca Shamanism, and it's great, so I think you should get it. I don't know very much about ayahuasca in an indigenous context, so for me, I'm just kind of learning about that. Well, maybe I'll say a little on our disagree or our kind of conversation yesterday. I think there can be a real easy binarization of kind of the West and the non-West or something like that. And that can lead to some romanticization, like, let's just take the models over there and let's apply it over here. And recognizing that every area, every place has its own kind of histories that you can't just wipe away, but you can get a kind of inspiration or ideas from somewhere else maybe, but you need to work it through your own kind of cultural, political, economic milieu. That's, I think, maybe the kind of hard project for a lot of academics doing interdisciplinary work. Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
I do have a question. I guess you answered by saying that as a social science, it's not your moral responsibility and you can look at things from a bit more afar. But also looking a bit more afar, we're here discussing the contamination and the communication between the culture of ayahuasca in the indigenous context and in the northern hemisphere. While I see already a new, not problem, but definitely phenomenon to face, which is the communication between the ayahuasca community and the outside community that looks into ayahuasca. To say that I believe in this room, everyone has drink an ayahuasca, but there are a lot of conversation about ayahuasca that happens outside of this room, and where ayahuasca is mentioned and often without knowledge. And I see that the discussion that is often brought along about the medicine becomes a little intellectual and amongst ayahuasca people, leaving half of the equation out, which are the people that might receive the healing. So towards this, which is more of a social problem, social issue, does social science have an approach, or is it kind of not a responsibility? So what could be a way in which, because I really believe in expanding, even though until very few years ago they were saying don't ever invite anyone to a work because you don't invite people to work. So right now it looks like it has been forgotten, but without a statement towards a new way. So my question is, what is the approach that is taught? Because I'm sure that there has been some conversation or something.
I think social science is extremely engaged in talking to the people involved. So I'm not really sure what you're talking about, the intellectualizing. Anthropology departures from concrete field work in communities and by talking to the people involved. That's what our discipline is based on. All the conferences we organize are extremely imbibed in this dialogue. This happened in psychedelic science. We had many community forums, and many of the participants were people from communities and with empirical experience. I'm not sure I understand.
No, my question was more how social science is thinking the communication between the ayahuasca world and the the outsider, the people that don't know about medicine, plant medicines. How should this happen? What is really the right way to go about it? Because until a few years it was like, don't say anything about plant medicine, while right now is say.
Well, we're doing a book launch here. This is what we're trying to say. It's a book full of ideas, which are like reflections on the expansion. And that's our comment, like, we're trying to bridge what is happening in reality with society. And we're trying to stimulate conversations. And launching a book in a situation like this is a stimulus to try to, think collectively as a society about this expansion. So people that like us that have been in ceremony and know what ayahuasca is and have drinking ayahuasca and are thankful for ayahuasca and feel blessed to have had this opportunity, and hear some random people on TV saying something completely absurd with no knowledge. Some medical doctor that maybe took one course about hallucinogens in 1973 for 20 minutes and gives an informed opinion. Some other experts that go to TV and claim, that Santo Daime are collective suicidal cults. That's how we answer them. We're trying to answer them with ideas, with science, with information, with reflection.
I'm afraid I'm being misunderstood, because mine is not a criticism to your work.
No, I'm not. I don't think it's a criticism.
To your work and to the work of the Psychedelic Conference. What I am asking is, what are possible ways to bridge the gap that there is between the people that are already inside this community and people that are coming from outside? What are possible ways that have been thought of filling this gap?
This is my answer. I am giving you my answer. This kind of event, psychedelic science, book launches, blogs, I think the answer is collective debate, information, dialogue. I don't have another answer. I don't have another idea. That's my idea. I don't know if you're expecting a more creative answer.
No.
That's my answer. I think that this is what and I think there's also the poetic of things and the cultural aspect. That's why I asked them to sing a hymn, because I think that speaks a lot. So there's many languages. I'm working on no batalhão da floresta. On the front line, I am working on the academic front. And I'm a soldier there, and I'm sticking to my position, and I don't want to be something else, and I think there's space for everything, and there's need for this kind of discourse, and I don't want to be obliged to be a poet that inspires people's hearts. My mission is academic, scientific, and that's necessary. And not everybody has to be doing inspirational work of healing or there's different ways to approach this, and I am a true believer in research. I am an activist of research, and I don't think that this is the only truth, and I don't think that this is best or superior or the ultimate truth, but this is my vocation and my contribution, and I believe in the importance of fostering research, and I think that research has a good potential to do this translation. But there's music, there's plenty of fronts to work on. There's therapy. Anyway, I think we can move from this question. Anna.
I wanted to respond to the question about the plants bringing this message about the environment, taking care of the environment. And it kind of also reflects on this exchange that's happening right now, because we can believe and feel these messages through the altered states that the plants bring us as teachers about, this is one example, about the environment. And then as this ayahuasca expands and grows, and Daime grows all over the planet and more people want the medicine, we have sustainability issues and supply and demand issues. And then people that are in the forest and like, for example, our church in the northeast of Brazil, we're starting to run out of diamine. And so many people coming and wanting to drink but can't contribute. And then how do we cultivate the plants and more and planting, and we're not going into the forest anymore to look for the wild plants. We have to be cultivating them. And this was a debate that came up this weekend also, where attention was brought to this question with peyote specifically, between preservation of the land for people to go and to keep their traditions alive, which involves long walks looking for the peyote, versus cultivating, and which is better, and or both. And so in that sense, the plants are definitely bringing this message about that's directly related to the environment and sustainability. So whether or not you even have an experience with the medicine where you feel like the plant through you or through through the miração is explaining this to us or to you, then you just look at the situation on the ground and it's clearly bringing the message just because it's a plant. And the same way we need to be looking at how we grow our food and take care of our relationship with nature, with plants in general. It's one that's, the demand is growing, it's becoming a hot commodity.
Could respond a little to that?
Can we hear more in the public? Just a second.
I have another question. So you had mentioned a little bit about like market and economy that really is starting to grow just out of just the accessible, the proliferation of this medicine. I'm curious if you have any feelings or thoughts around how the prices that are being charged now for either the per-night ceremonies or for the retreats, how that might be impacting accessibility of the medicine from a gender, racial, or socioeconomic perspective.
I think the answer is pretty obvious, no? It's very elitist currently, and I feel bad about that as a Brazilian, frankly. Like, for us it doesn't cost that much, and it creates ayahuasca in the States is pretty elitist. That's the truth.
Do you have any thoughts or feelings around how we can work with that or accessibility?
I think it's a matter of establishing stronger communities and trying to create new models based on more exchange and reciprocity and permanent and less circulation and more permanent membership. I think that actually the model of Daime and UDV is a good one. We create communities, religious communities that are based on belonging. Let's hear other people. Is there anybody that didn't speak so far that want to make a comment? Yeah.
Kind of related to his question,
Yeah.
but also about bringing ayahuasca culture to undereducated public about it or curious people. I wonder if you would talk about your experience about how you introduce ayahuasca in conversation or to somebody that you think may need it. In response to his question about bringing it to other communities, I think a lot of what has caused the uptick in people being interested in it is trauma, or where conventional medicine leaves off. People search for
what
conventional medicine leaves off. So leaves some people wanting. It may be a result of their economic background and not being able to afford certain kinds of medicine, but seeking alternative medicines leads people down the track of looking into things like ayahuasca. But at least personally, I don't recommend it to people lightly. I try to analyze their life situation, and if they brought it up in conversation, usually I take it as something that curiosity has led them towards it and led them towards having a conversation with somebody who has a lot of experience with it. So then I analyze them and decide whether or not to involve them in the conversation and finding it for themselves.
Yeah, I think that's, that there's also an etiquette in Santo Daime where I had many good years that you're not supposed to invite people to drink ayahuasca. It's against the etiquette. It's not like asking somebody, do you want to come to a party with me, It's a great responsibility. If things go wrong, you might be considered the bad guy and be blamed on. You don't want to have that burden on you. On the other hand, just know that might be so good. So, what I think is recommendable is you share your own experience. Yeah, this happened to me, and then if the person is interested, you can sort of facilitate. But it's not up to you to tell the other one to do it, because this is like a sexual choice. It's like so intimate. It's your subjectivity. It's your intimate soul. It's your body. It's your spirit. You can't tell somebody you should have sex with this one or you should be eating this. It's like very personal choices. But I feel it's a responsibility to, educate people, alert people of risks, make people aware of benefits. This is a resource that exists, and to share on a personal basis.
I try to share the possibility of benefits, especially the caveats and dangers, but I also, in personal experience, try not to influence anything that they see or hear or what they experience themselves. And whenever I've done ceremony here in the U.S., people tend to talk too much. They talk too much before the ceremony. They talk about their wants and their previous history, and it influences the ceremony and influences everyone before they go in. It's kind of like reading a preamble to a book that you haven't read yet. And it's just a little bit too much.
Maybe they could put you in the preamble of all the integration workshops that are taking place now.
Like, just do it.
No, I think it's a very valid point, and this is a whole other discussion about the whole integration. I think we could have a whole, other chapter about integration. And I just want to add, though, as a disclosure about not influencing other people, I could never have dated anybody that didn't drink ayahuasca. And I haven't, actually.
I have one more question about the music and the tradition.
Can we just get him first?
Oh, yeah.
But after that, these two questions will have to close.
Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, thank you so much for the panel. I'm curious to know to what extent indigenous people are involved not only as participants but as co-researchers in the research that's published, or if that's a possible avenue for the future, and also to what extent ayahuasca can be also used as parts of the research methods and not only as a sort of object of research.
Você quer falar alguma coisa sobre os índios como pesquisadores?
I'm going to pass to him because he has graduated with a BA in anthropology.
Mas antes de falar a outra coisa, eu queria te fazer duas questões. Como antropóloga militante ou acadêmico, que você já... 7 livros? Mais. Enfim. Como é que você vê? Uma das suas falas no livro, você, como cientista, fala que tem 150 anos, conhecimento no mundo científico, mas vejo que essa expansão hoje entre indígena ou no mundo acadêmico, vamos dizer, eu também me considero como um antropólogo, mas não tão mestrado, doutorado na antropologia, mas eu fiz antropologia, exatamente para discutir essa questão que um antropólogo vê, né, no seu pensamento, né, eu vejo, né, esse espírito militante de longo tempo da escritura, né, de você, eu vejo que você é mesmo um militante, né, que você tem uma ponta na língua de escrever, né, que nenhum. Então, meu grande pergunta para você é como é que você vê como é que é incluso, né, nesse entre os pajé, o xamã, o curandeiro, onde é que se encaixa nessa quebra-cabeça, né, no contexto entre o uso indígena, o uso da comunidade ou da igreja ou da religião, né, quais o caminho que essa nova modernidade, essa nova globalização, o melhor jeito ou de colocar o pensamento ou imaginação, como é que os indígenas participam nisso? Né? Quais as contribuições ou participação mesmo, não importa se nós indígenas são bem representados, não representados, são bem vistos ou não bem vistos no mundo acadêmico. Né? Eu vejo que tem doutores, tem cientista, né, antropologia, mas e o conhecimento do pajé também não vale, né, como uma forma também símbolo, né, da história, né? Então essa é a minha pergunta para você e eu acho que
essa foi uma pergunta para você. Eu vou deixar essa com você.
Você não quer traduzir a pergunta?
Não, tá para você.
se você não quiser responder,
não, eu respondo. Eu só estava pedindo para ele traduzir. So he said that he's also an anthropologist and he has done his undergraduate, but he was not going to answer your question. He took the opportunity to make a question for me. And he said that he doesn't have a master and a PhD and so many books like me, but that he's also an anthropologist, and he wants to make a question like for me. And how do I see, the incorporation of the voice and the knowledge of the pajés, the shamans, into anthropology, into academic work?
Como que eu vejo a incorporação da voz dos pajés na academia,
como é que
nos livros e no trabalho?
Porque eu só vejo que não tem, né, muita coisa sobre o indígena, né? Então, como é que você
He's saying that he doesn't see a lot of indigenous voices in the books.
Então eu vou ter que responder em português e depois traduzir, tá?
Não, tudo bem. Para mim, eu só quero que você responda a minha pergunta. Em inglês ou em português?
So I'm here wondering if I'm going to answer in Portuguese and then translate myself. Eu acho que você tem razão e tem sim pouca voz indígena. I think you are right, and it's true that there is not a lot of indigenous voices. A gente se esforça, mas ainda é muito pouco. We make an effort, but it's still very little. Um pequeno esforço é, por exemplo, convidar você para vir aqui. A little sign is to try to invite you to come here. Outro esforço é promover a conferência da ayahuasca e convidar 150 índios. Another effort is promote the World Ayahuasca Conference and invite 150 indigenous. Outro esforço é convidar algum índio para escrever um capítulo do livro. Another effort is to invite an indigenous person to write a book chapter. Por exemplo, no meu livro do peyote, teve um artigo escrito por indígena norte-americano. For example, in my last peyote book, we had an indigenous person writing a book. E tem os projetos colaborativos que muitos colegas fazem. que são ou coautorias, ou parcerias, ou o antropólogo ajuda ou edita a voz do indígena. E aí, and then there's lots of anthropologists working in collaborations, and they're either editors or co-authors with indigenous people. E é verdade e é difícil fazer isso, porque a academia tem muitas regras. Por exemplo, frequentemente eles não querem financiar alguém que não tem um doutorado para viajar. And it's true, and it's hard, and the academic world has many rules. For example, frequently they don't want to finance somebody that doesn't have a PhD to give a lecture or to travel. Então, eu acho que é muito bom que você conseguiu o seu mestrado, sua graduação. Eu espero que você continue. Eu acho que você está fazendo um trabalho pioneiro. So I think it's very good that you got your BA. I hope you keep on your MA. And I think you're doing a pioneer work. E eu acho muito bom você dar palestras e lembrar as pessoas sobre a importância disso. And I think it's very good that you give lectures and tell people about the importance of including indigenous voices.
Tem mais? Não, senão a gente vai ficar aqui. Passa pra frente.
Yeah, we kind of have to wrap it up. I'm going to invite my friend Labate to sing a hymn for us, if he would, just to be nice to me. We don't have to put it online afterwards if you don't want to. Que chato, ele adora. Desde quando que o Léo é tímido?
Guitar.